A few days ago, the Roadhouse remake from Doug Liman dropped on Amazon. I was able to see it yesterday, so here are my thoughts on it. Hi, my name is Nathan, and I talk about a bunch of movies on this channel. If you're new here, down below in the comment section, share what you thought of the Roadhouse remake over on my channel. I have more content like this. Check those out once this video is over. And if you enjoyed this video, click the like button and be sure to subscribe because it really does help a lot. As for me personally, if you want to know my experience with Roadhouse, I'm not particularly a big fan of the original Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze. I don't think that that's all that good of a movie. Maybe that's a hot take, but that's just my personal opinion on that one. And so I had fairly low expectations going into this movie. So just keep that in mind. That's how I went into this movie. With that said, let's talk about the good. And I think the absolute best thing about this film is the charisma that the cast bring to the table. And so this is a remake of an 80s action movie, a very cheesy 80s action movie with Patrick Swayze in the lead. And in this one, it's a reimagining sort of remake, but it changes up a lot of things, and it has Jake Gyllenhaal in the lead. So, with Jake Gyllenhaal as our action star, I think that he's very good in these types of roles where he could just take off his shirt and be super buff and jacked, and he can step into action when he has to step into action, and he's good at playing that type of role in this film. And you also get a bunch of other charismatic people. I thought the standout was the same guy on the TV right there. That's Jake Gyllenhaal, the guy facing him. I don't know his name. He kind of reminded me of Kano from Mortal Kombat 2021, which I just watched recently for the first time, Mortal Kombat 2021. He kind of reminded me of Kano from that movie. And so he's, I think, was the standout of it. He's the one with the most energy to it, and he brings a lot of life to the film that you're watching. And so I think that's the biggest compliment I can say about that, is that the cast is very charming all throughout the entire film. There's also just some, as an action movie, you gotta talk about the action when it comes to this one, and there's some nicely done action from Doug Liman where the camera, it moves around a lot, so that it feels a bit more, the action feels a bit more staged than it should, considering it's a streaming movie. And so I just thought that there was just the action was nicely done, it was watchable enough. I appreciated that the plot is very straightforward in a world where we have to have, where a bunch of movies are competing to have complex characters, layered stories, biggest explosions. This film, the plot is pretty straightforward. It was pretty simple, for me, at least. And comparing this one to the original from the 80s, I think our lead character in this one with Jake Gyllenhaal, I think he has a little bit more depth than Patrick Swayze in the 80s Roadhouse. And yeah, it's just, he has this backstory. They give him this backstory about he's like a UFC fighter and this trauma that he faced. And so it's actually trying to be something a little bit more than just a cheesy action movie like the 80s film. And for me, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I found this one a lot more entertaining, watchable, and better than the original. I like this remake more than I like Patrick Swayze's 80s Roadhouse. And I think some of that goes down to the fact that it's more modern. Hey, I like 80s action movies, but I'm not particularly a big fan of the original Roadhouse because there's not much of a plot here. Though we will get to that later on in this movie. That's still kind of the problem with this movie. We'll get to that later on in this video. But I thought this one in general was better than the original. I found the cast a lot more charming than they were in the original. So overall, that's all the good I have to say about this movie. Let's move on to the bad. And with this movie, there are quite a bit of problems here. Like I just said, I do like this one more than Patrick Swayze's Roadhouse from 1989. But for me, I think much like the original, while it has a pretty straightforward plot, it's very thin on that. And that's kind of my issue with the original. And so you could have fun bar hijinks. Sure, that's a lot of fun to see people just beat each other up, become jacked and stuff like that. But very thin on plot. Both of these movies, Roadhouse the original and Roadhouse this remake, seem to have that same problem. Like, this plot where he just gets like hired to be somebody who keeps a bar under control, and it's just a series of bar hijinks rather than an actual narrative, rather than an actual thorough line to that. And yeah, that's my problem with both of these movies, and it's still present in this film. Now, I find the bar hijinks in this movie to be a lot more entertaining than the bar hijinks in the 89 version, but I've never really understood the original Roadhouse and why some people love it, because it's like a thin shoestring of bar hijinks, and that's what this movie is as well. It's like, like I said, he just gets hired at a bar, and then a bunch of hijinks ensue. People are trying to take him down, and I enjoy those types of movies. But something is just a little bit, since there's not as much of a narrative through a line, I feel like I enjoy Roadhouse a little bit less than I probably should. I feel like Doug Liman, his way of filmmaking, I mean, he directed like The Bourne Identity, Edge of Tomorrow, and so that was the thing I was looking forward to when watching this movie, not because it was a Roadhouse remake, because it was directed by Doug Liman. And here, it's just not very memorable, like The Bourne Identity or Edge of Tomorrow. It's not a very memorable film. Like, his way of filmmaking, I didn't think the characters in this movie were as good as the characters in some of his previous films. And his way of filmmaking, it just doesn't really show all that much here. It feels kind of, I think some of that goes down to the fact that it feels kind of like an afterthought, literally right after you watched it. Like, I watched it yesterday, and it's not a movie that I think is particularly memorable. And maybe if they had some sort of narrative, character arc, whatnot, I don't know why I just can't get into Roadhouse all that much. But it just feels like an afterthought, literally right after you watch it. And both of these movies, even after I watched both of these movies, I watched the original Roadhouse for the first time last month in preparation for this one. And it's a movie that, both of these, I feel like I should like a lot more than I actually do. Charismatic actors? Cool. Bar hijinks? Cool. People getting buff and punching each other in the face? Cool. And even in this movie, it's like, it changes up some stuff a little from the original, where they're like living on a boat, there are boat chases, and it's probably a bit more over the top than the original. That's probably why I enjoyed this one more. But it's still just, I feel like I should enjoy it a lot more. It's not as fun as I think it should be. It's not as memorable as I think it should be. And I like dumb fun action movies, and so when it comes to Roadhouse, it is a film filled with charisma from the cast, a straightforward yet very thin plot. I think our lead character has more depth than the original, but overall it's a movie that, while it's a fun, schlocky, ridiculous action movie that's entertaining, at least, it's not one that it's not one that's very memorable. It's not one that's going to stick with me for a long time. So overall, I'm going to go C+ on this one. But those are just my thoughts on the Roadhouse remake. But down below in the comment section, share what you thought of the Roadhouse remake, or share what you thought of the original from Patrick Swayze. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button and be sure to subscribe. It really helps a lot, and I have more content like this over on my channel. Check those out right now. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end, and I will see you in the next one.